My dad built a new family and erased me, now I sleep in a closet while he spoils them like royalty. When I was little, my dad and I were super close. My parents split up when I was still a baby, but they had an arrangement: weekdays with my mom and weekends with my dad. Those weekends were honestly the best part of my childhood. We were like best friends. We had this laid-back routine we stuck to every single weekend. We'd rent 5 movies from Redbox, fish at the local lake, kick a soccer ball around, and bike over to this little hidden playground tucked behind the zoo. Another thing I just got used to was how often my dad had new girlfriends. They never lasted longer than 2 weeks, except one. She was different. She stayed around for 2 whole years, and I actually really liked her. But when I was 10, she broke up with my dad and left, and even though I was sad about it, things between me and my dad stayed the same, for a while. Everything started to shift when I turned 12 and my dad met the woman he's now married to. She came into his life with 2 kids, one older than me and one younger, and somehow, within just 2 weeks, they were already living in his apartment. My room had always been small, but suddenly, my tiny mattress and 3 little plastic drawers were pushed into a corner so her daughter could move her bunk bed and dresser in. It felt like I was being boxed out of my own space. It didn't take long before they started stuffing my bed in the closet when I wasn't there, and sometimes they'd forget to pull it back out before I came over. Later, when my dad upgraded to a bigger place, the older daughter got her own room, and I was told to share with the younger one. The 3 drawers I had shrunk to just 1 because the little sister wanted the rest for her toys. Eventually, I stopped going to my dad's house as often. Things really hit a breaking point after a year when his girlfriend got pregnant. They got married, and the worst part? He didn't even tell me. I had no idea they were married until a month later, and I didn't even know I had a baby half-sister until weeks after she'd already been brought home from the hospital. After that, everything changed. My dad started spoiling his new family like crazy. He stopped sending child support to my mom altogether, just so he could shower them with gifts. His wife, honestly, she doesn't work and seems more interested in spending money than anything else. Her older daughter is getting her college fully paid for by my dad, and the younger one is basically a 10-year-old makeup influencer with a bad attitude. My half-sister is still just a toddler, but even now, it's clear she's used to getting her way and throws a fit whenever she hears the word no. That beautiful routine I used to have with my dad? It's completely gone now. Meanwhile, my stepdad has been around since I was 5. Apparently, when I was younger, I once called him dad, and after that, my real dad sat me down and told me I shouldn't love my stepdad like that because, in his words, he's not your real father. I didn't realize it at the time, but I think that messed with me. I started acting like I hated my stepdad, even though he never did anything wrong. He's always been kind, patient, and supportive, and over the years, I've grown a lot closer to him. Honestly, he feels like the kind of dad my biological father never bothered to be. Lately, my dad treats me more like some random buddy he's trying to impress than his daughter. He constantly rants about politics and conspiracy theories, aliens, government lies, you name it. And if I ever try to talk about something I care about, he either interrupts or shuts me down entirely, like what I say doesn't matter. Then he goes right back to bragging about his new business and his perfect little family. I guess the last few years really opened my eyes. I found out that the reason he and my mom got divorced wasn't some mutual falling out, it was because he cheated on her while visiting family in Canada. That really hurt. Now I'm 15, and I've changed a lot since he last paid attention. I'm not the same kid who loved the beach and soccer. These days, I'm into music, books, and writing. I've published 2 novels since 2022 and I'm deep into writing the 3rd. My stepdad is incredibly proud, he supports me 100%, brags about me to anyone who'll listen, and calls me his daughter like it's just the truth. He has a biological daughter too, and even though she lives up north with her boyfriend and we don't see each other much, I really love her like a sister. Honestly, I feel more connected to them, my stepdad and his daughter, than I do to my own biological dad and half-sister. But my dad still acts like it's my fault we're not close anymore. He says I never call. And sure, I don't, but with the way he's been treating me, I just don't feel like I owe him that. I've started skipping visits for months at a time because I feel like an outsider in that house. The bed I sleep on when I visit? It's literally their guest bed. That says everything, doesn't it? I guess what it all comes down to is this: I resent my dad. I haven't told anyone about how I feel, so no one's outright called me selfish. But sometimes I wonder, am I a jerk for not being happy for him? He's head over heels for this new family of his. Is it wrong that I'm not? On the drive to his house, Eric wouldn't stop talking about everyone except me. He rambled on about the older daughter and her boyfriend, the shopping sprees the younger one goes on, and how my toddler half-sister is starting to say a few words now. I didn't say a word the entire ride. Then he finally asked me a simple question about school, and when I gave him an answer, he got irritated for some reason and spiraled into one of his conspiracy theory rants. I just zoned out after that. The rest of the weekend wasn't any better. His older daughter acted the way she always does whenever I visit. She locked herself in her room, only coming out when I was either in the bathroom or not in the house, just so she could avoid me completely. Meanwhile, the younger one had a friend over, and of course, her friend had thrown her stuff all over my bed and was sitting on it like it was her own. Apparently, that's her go-to-bed whenever there's a sleepover. Eric's wife didn't even try to hide how annoyed she was that I was there. A couple of times, I caught the look on her face. She genuinely seemed surprised I'd shown up. I guess Eric hadn't told her I was coming, probably on purpose so she couldn't say no. Most of the weekend was just Eric dragging me and my half-sister to some playground so she could run around with her little friends. I tried to sit and read on a bench, but Eric kept leaving and telling me to keep an eye on her. And look, I'm good with kids, but that doesn't mean I want to babysit, especially not when I didn't sign up for it. I had to give up my own time, again, to supervise a toddler who throws tantrums and runs off constantly. It was either chaos or discomfort the entire 2 days. After I got back home, I talked to my mom about how I didn't want to go over there anymore. She told me that was fine, and she wouldn't force me, but she said that before, so I didn't exactly trust her this time either. Honestly, I don't have anyone I can really open up to about this. It's just been eating away at me. My dad, Eric, he seems happier now than I've ever seen him. And sometimes, I feel guilty that I'm not happy for him too. I mean, shouldn't I be? Am I a bad daughter for not feeling that way? I don't know what to do anymore. I'd appreciate any advice because I feel like I'm drowning in this mess. Most of the people who commented on my last post told me I wasn't the jerk, that Eric wasn't acting like a real father anymore. But then he'll reach out with these texts where he calls me his baby girl and says he loves me. I nearly tear up every time because it takes me back to who he used to be. And it hurts. Am I overthinking everything? Am I just overreacting? I can't tell anymore. Is it really wrong that I'm not happy for my dad? Update 2. Hey again, so it's only been a few days since I last posted, but I wanted to share what's happened since. I actually followed a lot of the advice you all gave me. I sat down and talked to my mom, really talked, and told her how much I hate being forced to go to Eric's house. Yeah, I'm just calling him that now. A lot of you referred to him as my sperm donor, and honestly, that fits. To be fair, I still don't totally believe she'll stop sending me over there, but she did end up sending Eric a bunch of long texts, chewing him out for how he treats me. She also told him to finally pay his overdue child support. Of course, he didn't respond. So I decided to take another suggestion from you all. I sent him a long message myself, laying out everything. I told him exactly how I felt about the way he's treated me these last few years. And how did he respond? He called me. To yell. He said I was spoiled, dramatic, and that the reason we don't have a relationship is my fault, because I don't visit or talk to him anymore. And when I brought up the unpaid child support, he said the only reason I was contacting him was for money. That hurt so badly, I almost cried. I just hung up. After that, he sent my mom some angry texts, too. But later that day, he left me a voicemail saying, "Money's really tight right now. I'm totally broke, but you know I love you, right?" That might have meant something if it wasn't such an obvious lie. I've seen my younger stepsister's TikToks where she shows off all the Sephora hauls and expensive stuff he buys her constantly. So yeah, I'm done trying. A few of you mentioned maybe asking my stepdad for help, and I honestly wish I could. But when I asked my mom again about the possibility of him adopting me, she told me something that absolutely crushed me. Apparently, he said he doesn't feel like he should adopt me because he thinks it would be a slap in the face to Eric. My stepdad is a really good man, gentle, kind, thoughtful, but he avoids conflict at all costs. And I guess he thinks it would stir up drama if he made things official. Also, just to clear up something I saw in the comments on the last post, Eric didn't cheat on my mom with his current wife. My parents split when I was still a baby. He lived in Canada back then and had a string of girlfriends before moving here and continuing that same pattern. He met Alejandra, his current wife, when I was 12. He got her pregnant, married her in some courthouse wedding, and didn't even bother to tell me until a whole month later. I'm 15 now. It feels ridiculous to be dealing with all this heavy emotional stress at my age. But here I am. I can't really talk to my stepdad, since he's almost always working, and when he is home, my mom's always around. And I don't like talking to her about deep stuff because she never really takes me seriously. Last time I tried to bring up my mental health, I asked if I could maybe go to therapy. She just told me therapists were dumb and that I should either talk to her or pray to God. I'm not even that religious, and having serious talks with her just makes me anxious. It's not that I don't love her, she is my mom, but she's intense. Intimidating, even. Eric hasn't reached out again since that voicemail. Honestly? I don't even want to think about him for a while. If one day he realizes what he's done and genuinely apologizes, maybe I'll be open to rebuilding something, but not now. As for my stepdad, even if he never adopts me, he still calls me his daughter. Not stepdaughter. Just daughter. And that means so much to me. I love his family. His parents feel like my real grandparents. They've always been warm, supportive, and full of love. Maybe I'll post another update later on, if anything changes. But for now, I'm focusing on school and finishing my third book. I think now that I finally accept that Eric doesn't care the way he should, I can move on and channel that energy into writing. Funny enough, I dedicated my first book to him because I wanted to honor the dad he used to be. I don't regret that. Not at all. He'll probably never read it anyway. He's made it clear he thinks writing is a waste of time. But I don't care. I'm proud of myself. And to everyone who told me I wasn't a jerk, thank you. Seriously. Just hearing that helped more than I expected. So at this point, I've just had enough. If Eric wants to be happy with his replacement family, fine, he can have them. I'm done being the afterthought, the invisible kid he walks all over when it's convenient. He clearly doesn't want me around, and I'm finally ready to stop pretending that doesn't hurt. Someone commented on my last post, Jez_Lander, I think, and said if my dad texts me with stuff like, you know I love you, right? I should reply with something like, no, I don't know that at all. Because honestly, I don't. I know he says it, but saying it isn't the same as showing it. Real love isn't a hand-me-down phrase tossed out like a dog treat. It's something you feel. It's support when you're breaking down, comfort when you're hurting. It's laughing over an inside joke, or a proud hug when you've done something amazing. That's what love from a dad is supposed to feel like. And right now? He's none of those things. He's been a disappointment. A really painful one. Update 3. Hi everyone, it's been about 9 days since my last post, and I just want to say thank you for all the support. I didn't get a chance to reply to the dozens of messages and comments I got because, honestly, it was a bit overwhelming. But I did read them, and I want to answer some of the common questions here before getting into what's happened since. A lot of people suggested I talk to a school counselor, but the thing is, I'm doing virtual homeschool. And my mom works from home a lot too, so it's not that easy. On top of that, I have a really hard time trusting adults to keep private things private. I know that might sound a little paranoid or silly, but that's just how my mind works. Some folks also said I should try bringing up therapy again. But I already know that won't get me anywhere. My mom doesn't believe in therapy. She thinks that talking to God or listening to one of her Bible lectures is the solution to everything. And my stepdad? I love him like a real dad, I do, but when it comes to this stuff, he just agrees with her to keep the peace. He hates conflict, so he's not going to argue on my behalf. That said, I actually think things might be about to change. I've got this feeling that my mom is finally going to file for sole custody and go after court-ordered child support. I probably should have explained this earlier, but my parents worked out custody and support on their own after the divorce. The deal was that I'd spend weekends with Eric, and he'd send my mom $100 a week. I'm pretty sure the only reason he stuck to that agreement at all was to make himself look good while he was getting his US legalization stuff handled. He was still an immigrant from Canada back then. But the second he got that sorted out, he stopped paying and started spoiling his new family instead. Last weekend, I made the choice to visit Eric. For once, my mom didn't push me into it. I decided to go because I wanted to give him one final chance. He picked me up from her place, and we weren't even halfway down the street before we started arguing. I was excitedly telling him about this idea I had of selling custom book boxes that include novels, hand-painted bookmarks that match the covers, and DIY necklaces. I thought it was a cool concept. He immediately shut me down, saying it was stupid, a waste of time, and no one would ever buy something like that. The drive to his house was about an hour, and he spent most of it getting mad over every little thing I said. I told him I was thinking about applying to places like Harvard or the University of Chicago someday, and that sent him into a rant about immigrants in Chicago, calling them dangerous, and claiming that Harvard is just hype for rich kids. I finally snapped and told him he didn't have the right to look down on immigrants. He was one himself not that long ago. And what makes no sense is how he constantly talks down about Hispanic people when both my mom and his current wife are Latinas. I just couldn't take it anymore. Usually, I stay quiet to avoid the drama, but this time? I pushed back. And for the rest of the weekend, he pouted and grumbled about my bad attitude. I told my mom everything when I got home. But what really pushed her over the edge, what finally got her ready to go for full custody, was a rant he went on about men and women. I actually wrote it down word for word and texted it to her. Here are a few gems from his speech. Asterisk 99% of women just want to latch onto rich men. Asterisk almost all women are greedy and disloyal. Asterisk men don't like independent, successful women because they're arrogant and controlling. Asterisk it's more important for a wife to respect her husband than the other way around. Asterisk wives shouldn't earn more than their husbands. And then he smiled at me and said, "But you're the exception, pretty girl." There was even more, like him saying some of my guy friends don't count as real men because they're gay, and calling my summer volunteer trip to the Dominican Republic a bad idea because, and I quote, "the people there are different," even though that's literally where my mom's family is from. I'm not even going to list everything else he said and did that weekend. Just know, it was a disaster. That was his last shot, and he blew it. My mom's pretty serious now. She spent the whole morning looking for my birth certificate, and I think it's because she needs it to file for full custody. She wants to make sure I live with her full time. And if Eric is forced to pay child support again, that could really help me save for college. Also, I didn't mention the names of my books before because I was nervous about people finding my social media handles from the back cover, but if anyone's genuinely interested, I'm happy to share the titles privately in DMs. I'll probably post another update after court, assuming things go that far. Update 4. Hey again, so it's been about 3 months since my last update. And a lot of rough stuff has happened since then. But first, I just want to thank every single person who messaged me. I didn't get to respond to everyone, there were over 50 DMs, and it was a little overwhelming, but I read them. I appreciate every kind word, every bit of advice, and every story people shared with me. Especially the folks who reached out just to say they'd been through something similar. It means more than I can explain. One of the last conversations I had with Eric pretty much erased any remaining respect I had for him. It happened while we were talking about his wife, who, for the record, is at least 10 years younger than him. I mentioned that she was probably just wearing workout clothes because she was working out, and he scoffed. He said, "That doesn't mean she's not out here trying to get other guys' attention." According to him, women only wear workout clothes to attract men. I pushed back. I asked, "So if I wear workout clothes just to exercise and try to be healthier, does that mean I'm doing it to get a guy's attention?" He looked right at me and said yes. That was it for me. Any shred of respect I still had for him was gone in that moment. The rest of that weekend was just him constantly disrespecting his wife and throwing out insults like it was normal. And as awkward as things usually are between me and her, I found myself wishing I could have warned her 3 years ago what kind of man he really was. No woman deserves someone like my father. But here's the part that really crushed me. I've been saying that I still had a father figure in my life, my stepdad. And I used to believe that. But after something that happened recently, I don't even feel like I have that anymore. It all started a few weeks ago during a conversation I had with my mom. We were talking about adoption, kind of random, I know, but I mentioned that when I grow up, I'd rather adopt kids than give birth. She looked me dead in the eye and said I shouldn't bring someone else's dirty kids into my home. Then she added that it would be hard for her to love grandkids who didn't look like me. And yeah, I just turned 16 this summer, so maybe it's a strange topic to bring up. But it came up, and the things she said were awful. So I went to my stepdad, hoping he'd give me a better perspective. I thought, he's always treated me like his own, so maybe he'd understand. But what he said broke something inside me. He told me that he doesn't believe adopted kids can be loved the same way as biological ones. He said adopted kids aren't as lovable. I just sat there, stunned. Because for years, he's called me his daughter. He's introduced me that way. He's bragged about me to his family and friends. And now I realize he doesn't love me like he loves his own kids. Not really. That alone would have been enough to make me question everything. But it got worse. This past weekend, I stayed with 2 of my cousins. My oldest cousin is 21, and the other is 20. We were talking, and I told them what my stepdad said. I needed to get it off my chest. That's when they hit me with something I never expected. They told me my stepdad cheated on my mom a few years ago. She stayed with him. The same woman who divorced Eric because he cheated, decided to stay with a man who did the exact same thing. And worse, she never told me. She let me go on thinking he was different. That he was better. That he was the kind of man Eric never could be. Eric's betrayal ruined everything. It tore our family apart. It changed the way I saw the world. And now I find out the one person I've leaned on, the one man I trusted, did the exact same thing. It makes me sick. I feel betrayed. Disgusted. I don't even know how to look at him anymore. Not long ago, I was laughing with him in the living room. I was spending weekends with him, feeling like I finally had a real dad again. Now I'm grateful my mom is sending me to stay with my grandma for a while. It gives me some space to process all of this before I have to be around him again. Right now, I'm a junior in high school. And more than anything, I just want out. I've been throwing myself into school, searching for online work, applying for scholarships, anything I can do to build a path out of this. Because the second I get to college, I want to be free from all this drama. All this pain. If anything major happens, I'll probably post again. But for now, this is where I leave things.